Oh, hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Cody with Safe Pet Partners. This is Eva. Becky's in the back there. We're the founders. We're hoping we can help you out with some info today. We're really grateful to State Taos for hosting this. Thank you so much. If you folks haven't supported them or aren't aware of their services, please check them out. We've got info on the table there. And leave it with our wonderful certified dog trainer here.
Hi. Hey. Thank you all for showing up. It's exciting to see so many faces. Shows it's obviously a need in our community, and we're happy to help. So just a little bit more about SAFE. So Safe Pet Partners is a prevention first based animal welfare organization. We're basically here trying to help keep animals in homes. This aspect of free behavior meetups, we're trying to do this every month. That's our goal. We know that a lot of people have to make a heart-wrenching decision to relinquish animals because of behavioral issues. And so that's where we step in, is we want to help people be able to work with their animals, keep those animals in their homes as long as it's a safe environment for everybody involved. As we grow, are also hoping to provide subsidized dog training in-home as well for in-home visits. So if you want to support us in our cause, there's lots of opportunities to do so. There's an ability to sign up for just general information, as well as donate as well. We do have a QR code, we also have a jar. And then as Cody said as well, Space House we're so grateful for them to be hosting us here, and also this collaboration. If you're not familiar with Space House, I think you mostly are, because they've done a pretty good job of advertising their services. But just to reiterate, they are offering free spay and neuter services for Taos County, Picos Pueblo, Taos Pueblo.
All of northern New Mexico.
All of northern New Mexico. Thank you. Didn't realize it expanded. That's fantastic. Awesome.
The needs there to do it.
It's the most incredible thing. I mean, every community should have a Space House. So super grateful and super appreciative of the collaboration with them. So basically how today's going to go, I've got some questions, which is awesome. So I'm going to just kind of read through them and see if maybe some of them are doubled up, and we'll kind of address or categorize them a little bit. As I address the questions and start to explain them and kind of answer them, there may be situations where I may need a little bit more information about the animal. If you feel comfortable kind of raising your hand and telling me about that animal, great. If you're not, that's okay. It's not required. And then also if you have follow-up questions. So if I answer and you're like, well, then what about this or what about that? Let me know. And then if we have time, I also want to kind of go over a few little tips and tricks that can help every animal in every home. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free if you need to use the bathroom. Becky can direct you how to get there. There's water and candy in the background. In the back there. You can't mouth things to me, Mom. I don't know what it is.
I want to know what your name is.
Oh, my name is Eva Perrigo. Actually, as a side note, so I am one of the co-founders with these two of Safe Pet Partners, but I also do run my own business called Star Dog Training. I'm a certified dog trainer and behavior counselor, as well as a certified separation anxiety trainer. I train only force-free, meaning I do not employ the use of pain, fear, intimidation, shock collars, pinch collars, choke chains, body intimidation, hitting, yelling. Those are off the table. As we continue with these monthly meetings, if you have questions about why I choose that way, please feel free to ask. I would be happy to explain why we go that route, and why the dog training industry is moving in that direction more and more. So let's see here. Okay. All right, that one's gonna be. Oh, okay. Yeah, got some things going on here. I like it though. So I specialize in fear, aggression, and anxiety, although I cover all factors and all issues. Lots of different things going on.
Runs again.
It's good though. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to get one out of the way pretty quickly, which is the pulling on leash on walks. So, surprisingly, pulling on leash on walks is one of the hardest things to teach our dogs not to do, because we like to walk very slowly in a straight line, and dogs like to walk like this and sniff everything. And so trying to convince them that walking slowly in a straight line is what they should be doing is super difficult for them. It goes against everything that they want to do. So first off, getting an anti-pull harness can be one of your first lines of support. So I'll just demo here. We have one. This is my personal favorite, and actually it's the one Becky uses as well, because this is actually Becky's harness. It's called a freedom harness. One of the reasons I like it is because of this T-shaped design. I'll put it on the dog. It goes over the head like that. Because of this T-shaped design here, it does give full mobility of the shoulders. And then it comes in, it's also got this really nice like velvet, so even for the short hair kids, it doesn't rub as much. You can get them online. This one's a little small for him, but since he's not real, I can stuff him in there. So this harness has both a front hook and a back hook. If you want to help, for it to be effective as an anti-pull harness, you actually hook onto the chest here. Once again, this is called the Freedom Harness. Comes in lots of different colors. It is pretty well adjustable to lots of different size dogs. If your dog has a big chest like this, a large would be the way to go. Once again, it's called the Freedom Harness. You can find them online. Fortunately, they don't sell them locally. But essentially how they work is if the dog decides to start pulling, the leash gets taut and it actually redirects the dog in a different direction. So they're going, as soon as that leash gets taut, they move. And so what they start to figure out is that pulling sends them in a different direction than they want to go into. But by not pulling, they get to keep walking in the direction they want. So this can do a lot of the work for you, but it's not an end-all, be-all. But I do highly recommend them. I actually recommend them for all dogs, even dogs that don't pull, just because walking a dog on a flat collar, even if they did pull once, it can cause esophageal damage. And so walking them on a harness in general is better so they don't choke on their collars. Some dogs we can't get harnesses on. I understand that. That's kind of we definitely can walk them on a collar in that situation. I do recommend getting dogs comfortable with wearing things like harnesses. It's good for them to know what it feels like to wear something on their body. So once again, Freedom Harness. There are other types of anti-pull front hook harnesses. This is just typically the one I really like. And I find it to be the most effective in the anti-pulling category. The only other one, I don't think I have it, they do sell locally, is called a sensation harness. It's a little bit different design. It crosses the chest here. The only issue with those is that you've got to make sure that they're properly fit. Because if they're not properly fit, they kind of can get in the way of their shoulder movement and they can start to hang a little bit, but properly fit, they're super effective. And they do sell them at Blue Sky. If you can't get a harness on your dog, one of the things you can start to do, and even if you can get a harness on your dog, is carry treats with you on walks. This is going to be super important across the board with anything and everything we're talking about today. I carry a treat pouch. As I was talking to Barbara, I believe she uses a fanny pack. Fanny packs are also effective. Typically, any kind of treat pouch you're going to use, I like to have one hand entry. Personally, that's a little bit easier for me because if I've got a dog on a leash, I don't want to have to be fiddling with this while also handling the animal. The reason we want to carry treats is because when it comes to behavioral learning, dogs do what works for dogs. If a dog does a behavior that we like and they get if the dog does behavior and they get something they like food or access to another dog, they're going to do more of that behavior. If a behavior takes something they like away, they do less of that behavior. That's the basics of learning theory. So just like the harness kind of moves them away from what they want, so they stop pulling as much, what we can do is use treats to encourage behavior that we do like. And so when we're on a walk with a dog, anytime that dog makes eye contact with you. So he's sitting next to me, we're walking, and even if he's up ahead of me, if he happens to look back at me, I'm going to start praising and I'm going to give him a cookie. Okay? What he's going to start to realize is every time I look up at my human, I start getting paid. So he's going to start offering that behavior a lot more because he now knows that there's an ATM machine walking next to him and he's going to get doled out that money. Okay? So remember to always reward your dog for things you like for them doing. The more and more he realizes or she realizes that looking at you pays, the more that dog's going to stay near you, stay with you, and not want to pull as much. And it's a really quick and easy way to start getting what a lot of people used to train a heel. I don't necessarily think a heel is necessary as long as the dog is walking loosely on that leash. Because lastly, we also want to make sure that we let our dogs sniff and engage in their environment and in their world. They're going to get a lot more out of that walk if they get to sniff and engage and do dog things than if they're just walking in this boring, slow life. You walk a dog for 20 minutes and you let it sniff every bush for as long as it wants, it's going to get a lot more out of that walk than the amount of physical exercise it got for that 20 minutes. And that's because their brain is getting stimulated. They're getting to read all of the smell stories along the way. So just to reiterate, freedom harness, anti-pull harness, rewarding dogs for making eye contact with treats that they enjoy. It doesn't have to be a steak, even just a little something that can start to build that the dog's desire to actually want to stick with you and not pull as much. So now let's talk about jumping, because we've got jumping in here in a couple different ways. Jumping. Ooh, this one is dog is wild. Jumping to grab my hat off my head and to get my gloves out of my pockets. Yeah. That's Becky's. Let's see. That one. We have biting, jumping, chewing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So jumping. Jumping can happen for a number of different reasons. The most typical is that dogs jump when they greet you when you come home. You come home, they're super excited to see you, so they jump on you. Sometimes, though, they also jump to engage in play. I want to take your hat because I want to play with that. I want to grab those gloves so we can play tug of war. It's this fun keep-away game that they have invented that we don't like to play. Some dogs jump when they're nervous as well. And so it's really important when we're analyzing what our animal does is to figure out what's happening before the dog does that behavior. So if we're walking and the dog is trying to grab the hat off the head and trying to grab the gloves, if we're walking back to the car after a walk or walking back to the home after a walk, there's a good chance that dog is doing that because it's saying, I don't want to get off this walk. I don't want to go home yet. How can I'm feeling a little upset about the walk ending. I still have all this energy. I need an outlet for it. It could be just play, like, hey, they're trying to engage with you and we're just trying to walk slowly in our line and the dog's like, this is boring, and is trying to find other games to play. Some dogs will jump on people they're uncomfortable with. So if the dog is jumping and really stiff-bodied and barking at the person, then we know we've got an upset animal. So let's talk about when the dog just either is greeting or is wanting to play. So when the dog is not upset. If the dog is not upset, we have a couple different things we can do. If you're inside the home, let's say you're getting ready to go on a walk, the dog's starting to get super excited. He sees the leash, it's like, oh yeah, we're about to go on this adventure. You've got a couple different options. One, if the dog is jumping on you, so the dog is here, is jumping on me, I can turn and walk away from it. Too bad. And what that dog is learning is that every time I jump on my human walks away from me. And that's not what I want. I want to engage with my human. So they start to, once again, dogs do what works for dogs. So if jumping on the human sends my human away, the dog will start to realize that they don't like, that jumping's not fun and it's not working for them. Now what happens if you're walking away and the dog continues to keep jumping on you as you're walking away? So what happens? So you've got a couple different options there. If you're at the front door, so once again, this is all at home. If you're at the front door, you could exit the front door and close it to really get sent away. Stand outside for 10, 15 seconds, maybe 30, come back in. If the dog is jumping when you pull the leash out, and they're like, yeah, now I'm jumping because I know what that means, we go, oh, too bad if I put the leash down. The dog's like, wait a second. I thought that we were going on a walk, but I just jumped on my human and they put the leash down and walked away. And so through repetition, the dog starts to realize that if I jump, the opportunity for walk gets taken away. But if I don't jump, then we get the leash on and we get to walk, and we get to go on our walk. So even when you're not actually getting ready to go for a walk, you can practice this throughout the day. You can go through your getting ready for a walk routine. You put those shoes on, you get the treat bag out, you get the leash ready, the dog starts to jump, boom, we end the walk routine. 10, 15 minutes later, we do it again. Maybe an hour later, you just randomly throughout the day kind of work through this walk routine. Anytime the dog jumps, we end the routine. So that's how we can get a lot of practice with that, because dogs need lots of repetition for them to understand what it is that's working and not working for them. If a dog had grabbed your gloves or your hat and they were successful, and the number one thing we don't want to do is turn it into a game. If we start grabbing for that glove or we start going after the dog's gonna be like, yes, this is what I was looking for. And now you're gonna get the keep away game, you're gonna get tug of war with the glove. And so just ignore it. And I know that seems counterintuitive, like I need to do something with it. But if the dog realizes that its effort to engage you in play and its effort to use the hat or the glove as a plaything doesn't actually get that, they're going to go, well, this is boring. There's no fun in it. And they're going to let go of it. Yeah.
What if the dog does get a hold of the item that they want and then decides to destroy it?
Great question.
Or shred it? Yep,
great question. Treats! So what you can do, so we're going to have treats on us on our walks, and we have treats at the house. You know, even if they're not on us at the house, we can go grab some. And what you can do, typically, especially if it's something the dog really likes that they have in their mouth, we want to grab a decent amount of treats. So maybe a small handful or something really special like chicken or cheese, something the dog's really into. And we're going to show the dog that we have these treats. Now, a lot of dogs won't drop the item. They don't trust that you're going to give them that food. They're going to be like, no, I'm going to drop that, and then you're going to take the treats away too. So what I like to do is you show them the food, and then you're going to toss it. So you're going to toss it on the ground. You do a little treat scatter with the food, and the dog will go and drop the item to go collect the stuff that you have just dropped, and then you pick the item up. Now, some people will go, well, isn't that bribing the dog, right? But what you're actually doing is you're teaching the dog that object exchanges work for you, or work for them. They learn that if they let go of an object, they don't just get it stolen, that it maybe get taken away, but they get something in exchange. So just like we go to a store, and we don't just take the things from the store, right? We give them something for that item. And so it's the same thing for an animal. It's that psychology of saying, you give that to me, I'll give you something in exchange for that item. But it has to be worth it for them. And the more and more you do that, the less and less you have a dog that grabs something and runs away with it, because they learn that allowing the human to approach actually pays off, because they go, hey, look, I have this thing in my mouth. Do you want it? Oh, sweet. Thank you for this exchange. My dog, when I lived in Wyoming, there's elk legs everywhere. And she used to grab them and then run into the woods with them. And that's not good for me, because now she's off in the woods chewing on an elk leg somewhere, and I can't get her to come back. But we started doing these object exchanges, and she started bringing me the elk leg. And so sometimes I let her have it. But that's much better. Like, here, I'm bringing it to you as opposed to running away with it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What if your dog is jumping on you outside? If you're on a walk. You've got a couple different options. One, we can ask for an alternative behavior the dog may already have installed, like a leave it, or a hand target, or a sit, or a look at me, any other kind of behavior. And then we can treat scatter, throw those treats on the ground, get that dog back engaged with its environment. Now its nose is going to be on the ground. Now it's going to start to hunt and start smelling stuff and remove its attention off of you. If it's really bad and you're potentially in danger of getting knocked over, or it's super icy or whatever it may be, you can also use this leash. Sometimes I'll carry a little carabiner with me if I'm with a super jumpy dog, and I'll just hook the carabiner here on the end, and I'll find a tree or a post or a sagebrush or whatever I can, and just hook that around the leash and walk away. So it's the same idea as going outside at home, but it's a way to just get off of the dog for a moment to keep yourself safe. I'd much rather an alternative behavior, because this is not always an option. So teaching alternative behavior and asking for that alternative behavior to redirect that dog's attention is a better option, but this is always there if you need it. And once again, the carabiner is just there so you can hook the handle to the leash without having to take the leash off the dog. So it's just a quick way to wrap it around something. Some leashes do have like a little clip at the end. Those are kind of nice because of that. I think Croaky makes one. There's a ton of companies, so that's another option. This kind of removing yourself when an animal is jumping on you also applies to things like biting on you.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
I
sorry.
have a question,
Yeah.
a little bit of a follow-up on
Yeah.
what you're saying. I have a couple dogs that I walk that want to jump on me while I'm walking, but they want to jump on me because they know I have treats.
Great
Like
question.
hot dogs
Yep.
specifically.
Yep.
And I want to be able to reward them for walking ahead,
Yep.
but it's sort of counterintuitive by not bothering me with treats and getting in front of me and tipping me
Yep.
over. I want to reward them for walking ahead, but I feel like I'm defeating the purpose.
Great
of it.
question.
So how do I work on that?
So you've got two ways. One, these are little dogs here. One, asking for an alternative behavior like a sit or a leave it, similar to the jumping that we were just describing, and then doing the food scatter at least kind of gets them like back engaged with environment, so that they then aren't on the note. They're now doing something else and they're fully engaged with it. A lot of times that'll get that dog just sick and back into sniffing the environment, sniffing the road. Doesn't always though. Another thing is to make sure that when you are rewarding for any kind of good behavior, they are making eye contact, to really make sure that we do what's called position feeding, which is feeding the dog where we want the dog to be. So sometimes what we'll do is the dog's up here and we're like, oh, you looked at me, and we feed right here. So now the dog goes, oh, if I get in front, I get fed.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to really make sure that we're feeding them next to us so that they know that this is the position we get fed in, is next to the human. We want to try not to bring the cookie to them, but have them come to the cookie. So what if they're up there and they made eye contact but they didn't jump? We can lure them. We can take our little cookie out and literally lure them, bring them, use this like a little magnet to bring them into the position we need them in. And then we feed here. It's also making sure that we feed when they have all four paws on the ground. So if you've reached out, they made eye contact, and you want to pay them, and we start to bring that food down, and Fido goes, blink, we pull the food away. They get back down on the ground, we start bringing the food closer to them. They jump, bloop, we pull the food away again. So just like with us removing ourselves, we remove the food. Soon as all four paws are on the ground, then we feed the cookie. And that helps them really realize that four on the floor, next to the humans where I get paid. And then it's repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And if it gets really bad, tie them up, walk away. That can, if you're feeling like you're in danger, especially.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Got some of that. So what I was going to say is that getting, puppies that get really mouthy, dogs that are what we call demand barking at us. Human, do something with me. Not dogs that are upset barking, or dogs that are boredom barking. The dogs that are just like, I want engagement. They're barking at you when they have their toy. They're barking at you to play with them. Or they're getting really mouthy with you, putting their mouths all over, getting really super bitey. These types of techniques that I just talked about with jumping can be applied for those behaviors as well. They get super mouthy, we remove ourselves from them, or we can also put, if we're at home, we can put them in a crate, we can put them in another room, we can put them in the backyard, contained space. It's that removal, it's the the way this works as a punishment is that they no longer get to do what they were wanting to do, which was mowing and jumping and biting. Does that make sense? Okay. So that type of stuff can work for a lot of different types of unwanted, non-upset behavior. All right. Yeah, go
Can you
ahead.
explain the difference when it's upset behavior?
Yes, which we're going to lead into. So,
I have one question.
Oh. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, leave it, what's that?
so leave it is an alternative, what we call redirection behavior. So leave it basically teaches the dog to disengage with something they're engaging with. So instead of us being like, no, stop, don't, bad dog, we say leave it, and the dog knows when I hear leave it from the human, I turn away from the thing I'm engaged with, I focus on my human, and I get paid for that. And so it's a way for us to say, it's a behavior where we can say yes and reward as opposed to yelling at our dogs. No, stop, don't. It does need to be taught, though. It is a behavior that a dog does need to learn. But they can learn it super, super fast. It's pretty amazing. We could definitely demo that. I don't think we're going to have time today, but we're doing these meetings once a month. You're welcome to come to all of them. We have no problem. Please tell your friends. So if there are specific behaviors you want to see demoed, we can do that. I did get permission to have my dog come in as a demo if we need to. So, but there is some anxiety. And hi. There is some anxiety questions that I really want to touch base on here. So basically, animals have two forms of learning. All vertebrate animals, anything with a spine. There's behavioral learning, which is what we've been talking about. How we teach dogs to sit, lay down, come when called, don't chew the furniture, don't jump on me. And this is the type of learning we address when we have a non-upset animal. When we have an upset animal, we work with emotional learning. And how can we tell when an animal's upset? So it's all reading their body. It's looking at their body. I don't want to cover body language next month. But some basic stuff is stiffened body, where they're not like stiffened body. A lot of times you'll see the ears go flat against the back of the head. A tail is stiff, so it's either tucked underneath the body. It can also be wagging sometimes. An upset dog, a wagging tail is not always a happy dog. So it can be sometimes an up really straight, like really hard wag, no wag at all. Like I said, really stiff body. If it's a fear situation, you'll see them like lean back on their legs. They'll move their body weight. If they're super like ramped up, like I'm ready to go, you'll see them do the opposite. Or if they're investigating something, sometimes you'll see that as well. As they're like, I don't really want to get that close to it, but I'm gonna stand here and reach. Whale eye is a big one. So whale eye is basically, you think deer in the headlights look. So big, their eyes are really dilated, and you see the whites all around their eyes. Tongue flicking and yawning. It's yawning when they're not tired. And these are signs of a dog that's a little stressed out. The yawn does look a little different than when they're tired. It's more like a kind of a yawn than just like a I'm tired. Barking, the obvious ones, growling, snarling, snapping, biting. When we're dealing with an upset animal, we're not dealing with behavior, we're dealing with emotional learning. What we need to do is figure out how can we get this animal comfortable with what they're nervous with. So in here we have an animal that has some issues with being touched when it doesn't want to be touched. It gets nervous, it pulls away. It will accept petting, and it will seek out petting in certain situations, very much on their terms. We've got a dog who is nervous around the other dog that has recently moved into their home. He's a little upset by the new dog in the home. And we've got a dog who is nervous when strangers come to the home, especially men. It's typical that dogs, if they're afraid of strangers, are more afraid of men. Men have they're bigger, deeper voices. Don't take it personally. So what we're dealing with when we're dealing with emotional learning is we're dealing with how an animal feels about something, right? So if we want to help an animal feel better about something, we kind of have to think about, in our own world, like what would make me feel better. So, like, how many of you like going to the hospital? Exactly. Dentist office? Yeah. So, if you walked into the dentist office or the hospital, and first thing, as soon as those doors open, $10,000 falls out of the sky into your lap. You're like, well, that's pretty cool. Now, every single person you meet at the doctor's office or at the hospital gives you $10,000. If you have a procedure done or any kind of like test, you get $100,000. It's going to be start to feel a little bit nicer to go to the hospital. I might be like, I'm going to go to the hospital today. See if I can get a procedure done. And that's because we like money. We do as a human race. We operate on that system, and money does talk to us, right? So it's something we like. It's something that can buy us necessities and things. So if we go somewhere and we, instead of it being this negative experience of weird smells and sadness and pain and all of this stuff, and we start associating with really good things, we actually start kind of going, hey, that's pretty cool. And that's essentially how it works with these guys too. Now, obviously, money doesn't mean anything to dogs. So we deal with what does the dog like, right? So dogs like food. Some dogs like other dogs. Some dogs like attention. Food, some dogs like play and toys. Food typically is what we want, is typically what we can use, because it's the thing that most dogs are pretty into. So what we want to do is, let's say, let's do stranger here. And we can sub this with anything the dog doesn't like. So, currently, a stranger predicts fear, nervousness, and the dog's brain, even though they may not actually mean it, it may predict the potential of pain. So a dog is looking at an animal, at a stranger going, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you mean to me. I don't know what you predict to me. Since I don't know that, I'm going to assume that you may be dangerous. And so I have a scare. I'm either scared or I'm going to go after you. Go ahead.
What if you want your dog to respond to a stranger by barking or something like that? I mean, I want my dog to be a guard dog, not other things.
Is your dog nervous around strangers? Or is it social?
She hardly ever sees a stranger.
Okay. So that's a really hard, I get that question a lot. It's kind of a hard thing because the dog doesn't know safe. It doesn't know this person's safe and that person's not safe. It's either going to know anybody I don't know is dangerous or anybody I do know is safe. And so we can't really tell the dog, yeah, this one you need to not like and this one you need to like. Typically what we want to do is we want dogs to be comfortable with strangers. If they have a natural tendency to bark at people approaching the house or walking up, we can let them bark. It's just that then, especially if they're not upset, we can let them bark. And if it's somebody we want them to like, then, or it's somebody we like, with somebody we don't, it's not a bad person, then we can redirect them with a leave it, like she asked about, or a come when called, alternative behavior. Say, how about instead of barking at the person, we come over here. However, if the dog is upset by strangers, that is a potential liability for you. And so, because if, once again, they don't know, the dog's brain is, I don't know who this person is. And therefore, I think they're dangerous, and I'm either going to run away from them or I'm going to go after them. And dogs typically also, if retreat doesn't work, they will choose, like if a flight response doesn't work, they will choose a fight response. And so, a dog that is upset by strangers is a potential liability for you because all dogs bite. At some point, they all have a limit where they will bite. And so if we've got a nervous animal, we need to help it become more comfortable with strangers. That being said, once again, if you're not home, there's nothing you can do. But the general rule is we want to get them more comfortable with strangers. So we're not necessarily eliminating a barking behavior. We're changing how an animal feels about a situation. Does that make sense? Okay. So right now, the dog is nervous around strangers. This also could be a hand, right? So potential for touch. Potentially also means pain or death. I mean, this is how scary it is for these dogs. They really do think it could be that bad. So currently they have a negative emotional response to these things. Strangers. In here we also have separation anxiety. So another one is just being alone. It can be super scary for dogs. So what we want to do when we're working with emotional learning is we want to help show the dog that these, what they think currently are really scary things, actually now predict really wonderful things for them. So just like the hospital, if strangers now give them $10,000 in dog bucks every time. So we're thinking, I can't throw out chicken. I can write it. Chicken, steak, cheese. If your dog's super into toys, you could do tug of war, frisbee, and a big one is happy pup. So, stranger, the basic way of it, stranger comes to the door, we go, dogs respond really well to happy talk. They love it. They love it. So we get really happy. I know, man, you can't get your voices up that high, but just practice some sounds that the dog will like. So I understand, but just in that lilt. And you notice my body is also really loose and wiggly. Dogs respond to that. Because if I'm sitting there going, oh no, there's a stranger here, the dog's like, what's going on with you? Right? Who's this person here? What are we doing? Why are we getting so weirded out? But if it helps us also relax, it helps us with our nervous system as well. So we have to talk, and then it is just pay. The more you pay, the better. When I talked about the hospital, I didn't say they're going to give you $5. That's not going to change your opinion of the hospital, right? It has to be something that they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. Now, sometimes, like dog walking into the home, stranger walking in the home, it's too much, or the dog is dangerous. It's charging, it's barking, it's lunging. So we can control that too. So instead of just having the stranger bust in the door and the dog's like, whoa, this is terrifying, what we can do is either have the stranger and the person meet outside so that there's a little bit more distance. Then also the person's not walking into the dog's home where that's their safety space, and there's so we can start at home. We could also have the dog in the backyard and we bring the human in, and then we leash the dog up and we bring the dog into the space where the human is there. The big key is that if they see a stranger, they have to get this $10,000. They have to. And that is where we get into it has to be a 1-to-1 ratio. Meaning every stranger has to predict this. Because if they get $10,000, they get their chicken and their steak and their cheese sometimes, but not all the time. And how is the dog going to know when it's a safe stranger? Is this the stranger that's going to get me good stuff? Or is this one of the ones that's going to elicit that fear response? The closer we are as we can to 100% of this, a stranger always means that I'm about to have a big party, the closer that they can start to go, you know what, every time I see strangers, my human throws me this massive party, gives me all this money. I haven't gotten hurt. I haven't gotten killed. Nothing bad has happened to me around these people. So maybe strangers are actually something pretty good, and they actually are predicting. And what you'll start to see is the dog starting to start to look at you in anticipation of the food. You may even see body language shift, or they start to go to see the stranger, and all of a sudden that tail starts to wag in a soft, nice wag. Ooh, you start seeing a little bit softer body. You may even see some drooling, some anticipation of that food coming. Ooh, I know what's about to happen. So that's kind of the basics. There's a lot to it. If it's becoming a danger, I highly recommend hiring a professional trainer, a certified professional trainer, especially if that dog is a danger, because there's a lot of nuances to it. Yeah,
Can you explain why you want a certified trainer?
yeah, absolutely.
And why there aren't all
Yeah.
trainers?
I see Jane smiling back there. So, dog training is an unregulated business, an unregulated field in the United States of America. Anybody can wake up and say they're a dog trainer. You could have never seen a dog. Did you have a question?
So what about the situation where the stranger
Yeah.
is off-site,
Uh-huh.
like getting a nail trim or a vet visit? And, I mean, the dog is like so freaked out.
That's a great question. So I can jump back into Cody's here in a second. But one, especially at the vet's office, be your animal's advocate. Do not let them take your dog into the back, because now you're putting your dog in a really scary situation and they just lost the one thing they trust more than anything. Be your dog's advocate. Do not let your vet take them into the back. Okay? Go with them. See if they'll let you go in there in the back, and then you're feeding the whole time. Okay? Groomers are not necessarily going to let you do that. What you can do, though, is work a lot of times in a vet or grooming situation. It's not necessarily about the stranger. A lot of times it's about body handling. It's about the smells. It's about the noises. I'm sure dogs that are super social come into an environment like this and are like, whoa, there's all these cats. There's all these other dogs. There's all this equipment, and that's super scary. So at home, working on husbandry skills, meaning like vet procedures at home, getting your dog comfortable with the things that are going to happen to them at the groomer, or going to happen to them at the vet. Same concept. I brush you, cookies. I trim your nail, cookies. So it's the same concept. I don't like this, but now this predicts yummies. So I need an ear exam. We open up the dog's ear, we look in there, cookies. And so the dog starts getting super comfortable with these husbandry and body kind of invasive procedures. Good groomers will actually let you back there with them. They should, in my opinion. Or they'll go slow, and they know this process, and they know to do this on their own. There are vets that are certified fear-free. There are groomers that are certified fear-free. Not in Taos. But just letting you know that is a possibility. That is a thing. We can push for that. We can ask of that of our people. Be your animal's advocate.
Isn't the husbandry project available for people to
Yes.
do up their own at home? And it's really gives you step by step, but you can tell.
Yeah, so the Academy for Dog Trainers, which is the school I graduated from, they have put out a free to all individuals, anybody, called the Husbandry Project. And it's training plans to teach your dogs to become comfortable with all of the husbandry procedures, like having to be on their side for a x-ray, getting their nails trimmed, being able to wear a muzzle, rolling on their back. It's blood draws, jugular blood draws.
Real quick, you were talking about vets that don't want you to go back with your animal. K-Dog has to be muzzled when she goes back. They gave me gabapentin. I haven't given it to her yet. But who would you recommend for it?
I would stand up for your dog and say she's better with me. I need to be with her. I know, I've talked to a certified trainer. I need to be here feeding her the whole time. I can assist you with this. So can I either go back with you, or can we do the exam in the room here? Still muzzle for safety purposes if she's come, especially.
Her muzzle, her harness, and her collar.
That girl, man, she knows how to get out of stuff. Unfortunately, mesh muzzles are the only muzzles that really will prevent a bite. Unfortunately, they can't be on them for very long.
I don't know how she got it.
So I will say that Gruta Vet in Santa Fe does a lot of fear-free practice as well. A fear-free vet will basically say, we'll only push your dog so far, and then if they start seeing the dog is panicking or having a hard time, they're going to stop and be like, no, we're not pushing your dog past that, as opposed to taking them in the back and holding him down and putting him into a massive fear state. So, because a lot of times what happens is vets will say they're better in the back, but really that dog is in what's called learned helplessness. They go, I don't have any option anymore, and they shut down, and that's not helping the cause. right? It's hurting your animal, it's removing their trust, and it's making it that worse. So, but yeah, so the husbandry plans are available if you're interested in wanting to work through some husbandry plans with your animal. Actually, the woman who has the issue with the dog doesn't like being touched other than when it solicits, those would be really great to go through with your dog beyond the T-touch that you have worked on. I think it'd be really helpful just learning that hands-on dog means good things for me in lots of different situations. So we can give those to you. They're free. You can download them. Really clear instructions. Super helpful. Even if your dog's not afraid of the vet, still really helpful because your vet's going to love you when the dog's like, oh, would you like to trim my nails? Or super excited and wants to be at the vet because they know good things are going to happen. They know they're going to get that $10,000. It makes your life easier. It makes your dog's life easier. It makes your vet's life easier. It makes your groomer's life easier. Any other questions about that? Yeah, go ahead.
Just one, what are your feelings like on using something like CBD oil before?
Great question, because she had
like
also mentioned GABA.
stressor?
Yeah, so I think bringing in anti-anxiety medications to an animal that has stress is fantastic. Yes, do it. Go medication. However, when it comes to CBD, there's no real evidence or there's no studies done on its efficacy for anti-anxiety in dogs. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. We just don't know if it works. There's also not consistent dosing when it comes to dog-specific CBD. So similar to before it was regulated in the United States, they can be all over the place. So they can be super high or super low. And so, give me 1 second. So so there are like a lot of these kind of over-the-counter calming medications. We just don't have any studies on them. And so I typically am going to recommend to a client who has a dog that has extreme stress in certain situations to go the prescribed anti-anxiety route because there are studies done on those medications. We do know their efficacy. We do know their side effects. We do know how they help animals in those situations. So actually with the gabapentin, it can be a great drug. Typically with any anti-anxiety medication, try it out, see if she has side effects. Some dogs will fight through anti-anxiety medication if they're super freaked out. So just like with humans, not every medication fits the dog. And so sometimes you have to try a couple different out. There's a lot of different varieties of situational drugs, meaning drugs that you just give them that day as opposed to something they take long term. I can't tell you about those. That's because I'm not a vet. I know about them, but I am not allowed. That's practicing without a license. So, but that is something you can ask your vet about. Is what kind of situationals? What would you think would be the best? And GABA is a pretty good one. It's a pretty generalized medication. It just doesn't work on all dogs. Yes.
I went to Rendezvous and I had 2 dogs with me. They started shooting and the muzzleloader guns sound like cannons. My dogs absolutely freaked out. Lakota Indian suggested that I give the dog green tea. And so I made some concentrated green tea and gave my dog about 5 cc's of that. The dog weighed about 45 pounds. The dog calmed down and went to sleep. So then I took the rest of the green tea around to the other campsites that had dogs. And I said, how's your dog doing? And several other dogs were going bonkers. And I gave them the green tea and they all settled down.
I mean, my nervousness with green tea would be there's caffeine, and caffeine is not good for dogs. That would be my nervousness with it.
I wouldn't give it to them on a program.
Yeah.
But they were already
How'd you
carrying
get
holes in the tent.
how'd you get them to drink it? Put the beef in? I mean,
No,
Straight down the
I
throat.
took their
Yeah.
lips and I poured it in.
So there's, if your dog is prone to anxiety or there's situations that your dog is going to be presented with that is having medication on hand can be helpful, so you don't have to be like, now I'm doing this thing and I don't have the med. If your dog also, and I know I haven't touched on the separation anxiety because that's a big one. I'll But even the dog that's reactive to strangers, when dogs have a more extensive fear, where it's like a kind of across the board, I don't like strangers, having a long-term medication can be super helpful in conjunction with training though. So don't just give them the meds and say, we're gonna solve it that way. It should be in conjunction with the training. So that would be another thing you can talk to your vet about. Say, I have, my dog is super nervous around strangers. I'm worried about one, their mental health, and two, also the safety of my friends and family visiting. Can we talk about getting them on an anti-anxiety medication? Commonly prescribed, just so you have an idea, is like Prozac is a very commonly prescribed drug for anti-anxiety medication for dogs, and it's super affordable. Once again, it's not always the right fit for every dog, but that's a lot of times where vets start. I'm not saying you should tell your vet to prescribe that. I want to put that out there. Okay, you talk to your vet is the expert in medication. Okay. So yeah, once again, the husbandry plans, same thing with like the touch. Like one of the activities that I like to do is teach a dog to target, with dogs that are a little nervous with hands, is to teach a dog to target your hand with their nose. Pretty simply done. Actually, most dogs pick it up pretty quickly. We did this a lot when we worked at the shelter. All three of us used to work at Stray Hearts for the really feral dogs that didn't want to be touched or approached with me. So take a treat, stick it in your hand, and you just put it down. It's actually best if you do like a big step back and kind of swing your hand to the side. You end it at the side of your body. The dog comes over because it wants the food. It's going to eat the cookie, and we go, yay! And it eats the cookie, and we give it to it. And you repeat this and repeat this and repeat this. Then you do it without food in your hand. So same thing, we're going to stay at 4. We draw ourselves back. The dog comes over thinking we still have food there and touches our little hand thinking maybe there's food. And then as soon as we feel that little nose touch our hand, we yay! And we feed. And so the dog starts to learn how to target hands. This it is technically a behavior. We are technically teaching the dog to come over to us. However, emotional learning is always happening in the background. And so what that dog is learning is, if I go touch that hand, cookies happen. So maybe approaching hands and having hands near me is not so bad after all. And it's a great way to get them approaching people, interacting with hands to start with. Just getting them more comfortable. Let's see here. I just want to make sure. So with the dog that doesn't like that is having an issue with other dogs, without fully knowing exactly what the body language is, but I actually know this dog, so I kind of know probably what body language is. Really work those leave-its around her and pay heavy, because basically when you're unsure, let's just say I don't know the dog. This dog is having some issues with a dog that moved into the home. She's saying that it was fine at first, but she's starting to have some issues when the other dog's coming inside the home. So if we're not sure if the dog is just being a bully, or if the dog doesn't like the other dog, or maybe it's guarding, this is my home and I don't want to share it anymore, when we're a little unsure of the reason why the dog is acting like this, we're not really sure, is the dog upset or not, we can ask for an alternative behavior. So that's where like the leave it comes in again. How about instead of yelling at the dog entering, we leave it. The dog comes running over, we feed heavily. 2 things happen. The dog's redirected. It's no longer doing that thing we didn't want it to do. But this is also happening in the background because the other dog's going, every time the other dog comes into my home, I get cheese. So maybe I like it now that the other dog's entering my home. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's see, what time is it? 3. Okay, I'm just gonna, I just want to, because I don't want to ignore the fact that I see separation anxiety here. That's a really heavy and involved topic. And I see that there's some severe destruction in there as well. I'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one after this about it. Basically, separation anxiety, there's a lot of work to figure out. Not a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but to diagnose it, there is a system to diagnose it. Sometimes separation anxiety is not actually separation anxiety. Sometimes it's a dog that's afraid to be in a crate. Sometimes it's a dog that just is super bored at home. So we need to do a lot more diagnosis on that. So if your dog is experiencing it has been diagnosed as separation anxiety. There is a very structured process to work through it. It is absolutely something you can fix. It's actually one of the most successfully fixed issues in dog behavior. There's just a lot to it, so I'd like to kind of talk to you a little bit more about that in detail. Are there any other questions before we? Yeah.
When you're doing that thing with the food in the
Mhm.
hand like that, do you do a voice command with it? Do you say touch?
You don't have to. To start with, you can just start teaching them just targeting hands. Works. You could add in a cue to it, but to start with, you're just getting them to focus on coming to a hand means I get food, coming to a hand means I get food, and getting them focused on just that behavior aspect.
Because that then you can just eventually put your hand down and they know.
Yep, they see it and they're like, oh, yay. And actually, like when we work with the shelter dogs, they start to figure out this game so much, they'll just start booping you all the time. They're like, what can I boop? I want to boop, I want to boop, I want to boop. But they'll just start booping everything. They're like, how do I get cookies? I want to boop. And it's kind of cool because now they're engaging with you, right? A dog that was a little previously more like, hands off. They're like, let's do this. Let's play this game. Which is super cool. Any other questions? Okay. So if you feel like your question didn't get fully answered or you'd like more, like come back next month. Also, like I said, I do operate my own business. So if you feel like you need to get some one-on-one training, my cards are over there. You're welcome to. But we are going to be doing this once a month. We'll be advertising it. It will be continually to be here at Space House unless we outgrow the space. So there are other options if we do. And then, so a couple things. One, I just want to mention one of the other things that we are doing with Safe Pet Partners is establishing a centralized foster network. So this is fosters for dogs, cats, anything. If anybody in this room or anybody you all know is interested in fostering or knows anybody that'd be willing to foster, please let us know. We've got a little sign-up sheet. We can send you information. The big thing we want to just impart to our community is that fostering is not a 10-month requirement always. Sometimes it can just be getting a dog out of a shelter for one night. Sometimes it can be a community member needs to stay overnight at the hospital and they don't have no one to take care of their animal and we need someone to go check in on that animal or take them into their home for a night. It can be a walk. It can be an adventure out into the woods for a couple hours. It could be a weekend. It could be a medical foster, an animal that needs help with recovery for 3 days. So if you can think, if yourselves can open your homes to animals, please let us know. We are also providing foster training, so we're not going to just, here's an animal, good luck. It's about how do we, integrate them or not integrate them into your home. Also, how can we have that? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you teach a dog any age, an old dog and stuff?
Yep, as long as they're physically capable of doing the behavior, so we don't have like ailments.
The aggression thing?
Mm-hmm. It's going to take a lot longer.
Okay.
Because it's ingrained, and it's practiced, I should say. But yeah, we definitely can start. I mean, it's also going to think about it in the sense of it's going to make your life easier, but it's also going to give them some stress relief. Whew, I don't have to worry anymore, right? Imagine living with that fear. So we absolutely can. Yep, absolutely. We also have, so yeah, if you're interested in fostering or just want to learn about it, it's no requirement. If you give us your information, we're not like sending you a dog tomorrow. So just let us know, sign up. We also, before you guys leave, we have created these little packets for you guys. These are our little doggy paycheck bags. So on here is treats to take home for your animal. It's basically, if you see your dog do something you like, give it a cookie, please. This is just a little reminder to do so. It's how we increase behavior. We also have handouts up here. You're welcome to look through. So there's stuff about aggression, there's stuff about jumping, mental enrichment, all kinds of different behaviors.
And you can take these home.
Yeah. Yep. And then we aren't selling these or giving them away, but these are suggested reading material as well. We don't have, okay. If there are specific issues, some of these are general books, some of them are very specific.
What's the website for the husbandry? handout?
We will have, I'm gonna have to look it up.
And are you guys on Facebook separately, say pet partners, I
Yep.
imagine? or-
Yep, Pet Partners, we're on Instagram and Facebook,
We have a
and then
website.
our website, so take this card with you when you go at the very least, that has our website. But we are updating our social media. In addition to these monthly events, we will have lots of other, so, check our social media for that stuff for sure. Yeah.
Nice. So, we've got the-
Do you have a date for next month?
We should, I think, well, we can't do that. Oh, yeah, it would be, yep, 21st again. 21st, yep. So same, it's a Saturday again, 2 o'clock.
Saturday the 21st.
She had a question. Oh, no, I just want to say, if anybody would like any more information about this organization, State House, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
May I make a comment? I had my dog stay here, and it was a wonderful experience.
Hey, how did your dog do with that?
And if any of you are willing to take the time to just fill out a little survey so we can make sure that these are as effective and helpful as possible, what can we improve on? What you think, that'd be really helpful.
Got a question.
Yeah.
What about dogs taking things from in the house out into the yard?
So that would be, if they're still in the mouth. What's that? So if you see them, they already have them in their mouth.
No, I'm not saying that.
So you do not see that.
No, we come home and all our dogs are trying.
I mean, unfortunately, it's not, I'd love there to be a magic stuff, right? It's kind of like leaving things on. We leave it out, and it's successfully,
It's like having a toddler, if you don't want to grow.
right, yeah, unfortunately, the next box is maybe. Yeah, it's, the box is nice, I think. I'll get to my card.
We'll see what the dog grew up and I like to ask.